I had two projects. The first one, we were joking earlier, the commissioner was not invited to several of our events, but I made sure that you were invited to the event that we had together. So my first project was uncovering the stories of the Black women who created bullets in TCAP, so Northern Ramsey County. And so there was an event.
What? I remember that, and I was somewhere.
You were invited though, so that's the thing. And so through that process, so weird sort of stat that I came up in a couple of books is that 1,000 African Americans worked at TCAP during the war. I'm like, why do you find 1,000 African Americans during World War II in Anoka County, like in Northern Ramsey County, working there? It's like, how does that work? And then combine that with this idea that a gentleman has a documentary about African Americans working during World War II, Black Roses, basically, not just riveters, but anyone whose job was opened up because of the war effort and men were away. And so he was like, hey, I got this documentary. I'm like, hey, and he said, you should figure out how many Rosies you had in Minnesota, what they were doing and that kind of work. And so I was able to, of the 1,000 African Americans, find pictures of 15 find names of about 15 African American women who worked up there. And I have found pictures of quite a few. And so this is, so these are women who lived in mostly Ramsey County, mostly in the redlined areas of St. Paul and Minneapolis, and would figure out how to get to work and had a variety of jobs. And this was also like a national story because the National Urban League was saying that, you know, Minnesota kind of figured out the race issue, you know, and the race issue was Black people can do jobs too, at the same time as white people in the same space. And I think the issue was, you know, if you don't put everybody in janitorial roles, then maybe folks can start to like figure out how to work together. And so that was the first project. We had about 80 people show up to a Zoom presentation of the documentary film, and I shared a little bit about those. Yeah, great film. Yeah, and so
it's coming back.
Yes, and because of that connection, we're going to have Ramsey County is going to have the opportunity to show the film again.
You have to thank Meredith for that one. She wrote a glowing, it blew me. I was like, I'm not even the sunlight. Wonderful review of it to the filmmaker who did a great job.
Yeah, it's great. Well done. And so the second project is Telstar. And Telstar is a public affairs program that filmed in St. Paul in the 80s and 90s. And the unique thing about Telstar is that these are stories or kind of, these are the voices of people that wouldn't necessarily get onto the main news stations. So NBC, CBS, kind of the main traditional news, but these are folks who have a story to tell and to share about what was going on in their world. And this is an example of from those. So imagine 80s and 90s, these people coming to Minnesota for a variety of reasons and being filmed, getting the opportunity to share their story, their piece as to what was going on, what they want, what their story is. And so I can admit.
I can do that.
Okay. And so there's this archive available downstairs in the Ramsey County Historical Society of these shows from the 80s, and I guess the piece that I was able to be a part of was, I've got the names of quite a few of the folks who were interviewed. So this is a large list of individuals who were part of sharing their story, sharing their piece, talking about what's happening in the community at that time, what was happening in the world, from a variety of perspectives would share. Those shows would be packaged and sent across the world, across the country, and then to a few other international locations, all from here from St. Paul. This is the gentleman who did it, Edith Fletcher, who used to work for the city of St. Paul. What the part of this story that I come into is for the past couple of months, Reese and I have had conversations. She's shared kind of that context for why this happened, how it happened, his story as to how this all came about. And so this is what he had. It's basically reels of shows available. And so the Ramsey County Historical Society has archived, has digitized those, made them available in the process of, so this is in the process of getting them all transcribed. This is where I see the process going. So Telstar is the name of the program, and what is it going to happen in the 21st century? So Reedus, for the last 30 years, had them so-called preserved in his basement, deteriorating some, but kind of Reedus Fletcher, the gentleman who created the program. Oh, you know Reedus?
No, I don't, but I can't imagine.
Mhm. He created it, and he's like, okay, what do we do with this? And there's this like nuggets of wisdom from 30 years ago, talking about some of the same issues that we do today. And so they're preserved. Now they're digitized and being restored through the Ramsey County Historical Society. And now they're also transcribed. So the part that I was a part of is this contextualizing, talking to readers, having conversation as to, okay, how did this happen? What was necessary? How did you become the one to do this? And why did you save it? And kind of having all those questions, he was happy to talk about it. And then the next couple of pieces, I think, are distribution and reproduction. So over the course of the time, Rita shared this story. So this is his father and his mother, and then him as a baby in the middle, sharing about his story, where he comes from and what he was about. This. And so that's just kind of the context that he brings to it. And one of the things that we talked about is how do we share these pieces? And so the example that he really likes is that the St. John's University, it has the McCarthy Center. And what they've done, you can see a couple of YouTube clips, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes, about kind of what McCarthy said. So this was interviews that Reedus did of McCarthy during Telstar's time that now St. John's has available and can kind of push out. So what did McCarthy think of the war? What did McCarthy think of Vietnam? What did McCarthy think of what it takes to be president? Like they have little snippets of that. So he really likes that kind of how that format is available. And so we figured out what's next with that. And so like I said, the preservation and digitization and transcription is kind of done. Contextualization is the piece that I've been a part of. And figuring out what that next step is, kind of how do we distribute that and kind of what formats? And then where do we reproduce it? Like Chad and I had talked about the possibility of having like a half-hour program where we have, this is what they said in '86. And this is what we're saying at the same time here in 2023 or whatever. And so figuring out what that looks like. And the thing that I think is unique is that, according to Reedus at least, these people that shared their story weren't able to get on the regular news programs. And so there is no other archive like this of these kind of voices available except here. And so I think this will be really great to have figure out a way to do those next steps.